Hello and welcome to today's webinar on sharing your family history. My name is Ginevra Morse, the Director of Education and Online Programs at the New England Historic Genealogical Society. I'll be moderating today's event. NEHGS is a nonprofit organization supported by our members and donors. We provide resources and expertise in nearly all aspects of family history and are pleased to offer this webinar today for our members and friends around the world. Giving today's presentation will be Penny Stratton, Publishing Director at NEHGS. She's been at the Society for 8 years and oversees all print publications, including our magazine, scholarly journal, and books. She's also managed all steps of book production for more than a dozen NEHGS and Newbury Street Press titles. In addition, she is co-author of Guide to Genealogical Writing, Writing and Publishing Your Family History, published by NEHGS just this past fall. In the next 45 minutes or so, Penny will provide a variety of ideas on how you can share your genealogical research with your family. She'll talk about getting ready to write or compile your research, selecting a format that meets your goals, organizing your materials, and then writing with the intent of sharing. At any time during the presentation, please feel free to write a question in the panel to the right of your screen. Penny will answer them in the last 15 to 20 minutes of the hour. There is no handout for this lecture, but there is a subject guide on writing and publishing your family history on our website, which Penny will reference during the presentation. Also, you can take screen or slide captures by clicking on the camera icon on the upper right of your screen. This event is also being recorded, and the video will be posted to our website in the next couple of days. So I will now turn things over to Penny.
Welcome, everyone. The holidays are approaching, and it's a great time to think about writing and sharing your family history. You might be planning to create a publication as a holiday gift, or you might want to take the opportunity to share what you know with relatives you'll be seeing over the holidays. Today we'll discuss some options for you, and I hope you get some inspiration. First, though, let's take a little survey. What kind of family history project are you hoping to create? So please select one here. Something you can share with your family over the holidays, or a formal genealogy. If the answer is both, pick which one you're going to do first. And we'll focus probably today more on shorter pieces, although you'll be able to extrapolate from what we talk about today to a longer, more formal genealogy, and we'll point you to those resources as necessary. We should be seeing the responses, and it looks like the votes are more heavily weighted to something you can share with family over holidays, although formal genealogy is pretty close. Well, let's get started, and we will talk about both. Here at NEHGS, we see lots of examples of all kinds of family histories. Our library is full of hardcover genealogies, but we also have more informal documents in our collection. Transcribed diaries, short family histories that were printed at home or at copy shops, pamphlets, articles, and even photo-based family histories. In addition, we have a great deal of experience publishing. Back in 1847, we first published our quarterly journal, The Register, the flagship journal of American genealogy. We also published the quarterly magazine, American Ancestors, and as Ginevra mentioned earlier, we have a very active book publishing program. We publish a dozen or more titles per year, including how-to books and books of records, and compiled genealogies of American families. Through our writing and publishing seminars and webinars, we talk to a lot of people just like you who have already started writing their family histories or are looking to start. We'll look at ways of sharing family histories both online and in print, but the focus today will be on print. There are many opportunities for sharing information online, and what better way to solicit information from other family members, even those previously unknown to you. Ancestry.com trees and stories, Family Search, MyHeritage, blogs, your own website, even Facebook. But I do hope you'll consider printing a family history. That's the best way to ensure that it will be around in years to come. Now, you don't need to do a long hardcover genealogy of all your ancestors, although you could. But you can do something short and simple, as we'll see today. You can create your own project on your computer, print it at home, take it to a local copy shop, or work with a book printer or publishing service, or even an online service. Fortunately for us in the 21st century, digital printing technology has made printing relatively easy and inexpensive. So, regardless of whether your goal is to share your information online or in print, you'll need to get going. So how do you start? By and large, the most asked question we get from potential family history writers is this one: how do I start? How do I stop researching and start writing? It might seem obvious, but the first step in organizing your work for any kind of publication is so important that it bears mentioning. You've got to shift mental gears. And by that I mean you need to stop thinking about your family history as a research project and begin thinking about it as a publication, something that has a beginning, a middle, and an end. Now's the time to think about how to turn some of your disparate elements, notes, files, photos, and documents into something else. And once you've decided to do a family history, what are your goals for it? Who do you want it to be for? How quickly do you want to get it done? Those are two key questions to consider. Who's your audience? Your immediate family? Your extended family? Maybe even the genealogical community. Do you have an elderly relative who would enjoy reading about a particular aspect of your family history, or do you want to record a family history as a present to your children or grandchildren? As you think about your audience and what kind of content is appropriate for your readers, the scope and format of your work will begin to take shape in your mind. Also, take a look at a calendar. What are your goals there? If you want to do something for the holidays, you'll need to organize and get going right now, deciding what format you'll want to use and how long it will take to create the actual publication once you begin. Be realistic here. Plan your scope accordingly and don't bite off more than you can chew. Next, take a look at what you have on hand, not only data, but stories and photos and maps and so on. How does all that material, both print and electronic, fit into your goals? What's appropriate for your audience and what can fit into your time frame? When you look at your materials, you'll likely have a mix of print items and electronic items, some in paper folders, some on your computer, some online at websites, records, family group sheets, photos, image scans, etc., etc., etc. Gather it all and see how it balances out and matches up with your goals for this project. As you assemble everything, you may see that the balance of materials is lopsided. Maybe you have too much of one thing and too little of another. So you might decide you need to obtain additional information. This might prove a problem if you're trying to produce something for the holidays this year, but if you're not, why not take the holiday time with family to try to obtain more information? Maybe you want to hear more family stories and memories, or maybe you just need to nail down the specific birth date and birthplace of your sibling's most recent grandchild. If so, you can consider giving or sending your relatives a questionnaire to complete or interviewing them by phone or in person. And here I want to send you to our online learning center where you can download a questionnaire to send to family members, and there also you can find a list of conversation starting questions for interviews. Of course, you can also solicit family members for photos they might have, and you can find photos, maps, and other relevant images in old books, historical societies, and other repositories. And in the photo research we've done for our publications, we've certainly found many things on our own library shelves and archives, but we also do a lot of online image research. The Library of Congress is a great source of free historical images and maps, and sometimes you can find both historic images and modern-day photos of ancestral locations at Wikimedia Commons. Even just do a Google image search or a Bing image search, and those can prove quite fruitful. So take a look at all your materials and think about how these items fit into the kind of project you're considering. And if you're not quite sure what you're thinking of, well, looking at other publications can be a great source of inspiration. Browse the family histories at your public library, come in here to NEHGS and look at our collection, or visit another institution. You'll see a number of formats and models to follow, from articles in magazines or journals to short little photocopied works to lengthy hardcover genealogies. Don't set your heart on finding one perfect model because you might not find an absolute fit. However, you should be able to find something that inspires you in terms of its scope, presentation, and/or design. And here's another tip. You don't have to share everything at once. You can start out with something like a memoir or a photo album or even a book of family recipes with biographical information about each cook. That's a good way to dip your toe in the water and get yourself started. You can then do a longer work later. Again, think about your goals, your audience, your time frame, what you have on hand. So say you don't have a chance to get to a library within the next few weeks to look at some model publications. Let's look at some right here, and maybe that will help you come up with some ideas. We'll look first at some online options and then turn attention to print. Whether what you create is short or long, online or in print, it's important to know that you're recording and publishing your family history, and that is really, really a good thing to do. In terms of online options, you might want to start a blog or a website on which you discuss your family history. It's fairly easy to set one up, as we'll see in a minute. The challenge is maintaining it. Unlike print projects, which have a beginning, a middle, and an end, blog and website posts can have a tendency to just kind of keep going. But if you keep your posts short and focused, like we do with our NEHGS blog Vita Brevis, for which we have a 400-word limit per post, you can get good practice at writing focused family stories. The one shown here on the left by my colleague Sam Sturgis is just such a focused story on a suspicious first cousin. If you haven't read it, I recommend that you look at the Vita Brevis blog at vitabrevis.org and check out that post and all the others there. Now, I recently decided to try to start a blog myself, and I turned to WordPress.com. It's a fairly straightforward process to get started by picking a name and then adding text and images, and it's free. You can choose from a number of different templates depending on what kinds of text and images you want to incorporate. I picked a pretty simple one, as you see here, looking at my first and only post so far. And then here you can see the WordPress dashboard. Other blogging sites are set up similarly and offer a fair amount of hand-holding as you get yourself set up and as you make your posts. If you're interested in sharing in order to elicit comments back from family members and others, a blog might be one very good option for you. And you can do a print project at the same time. It's also a fairly easy matter to set up a website where you collect and share information about your family history. I wanted to see what that worked like, so I went to Google and set up a site there. It's one of the many different places that you can go and set up a free website. So you can see I just did some basic stuff, put in some text, added a photo. And here's where you edit and write new material for a site on Google. It looks a lot like word processing program, so it's pretty intuitive to use it. Now, I haven't chosen to make this site public because, in fact, I can choose to share it only with people whom I invite. I can make it completely public also if I choose to do so. Now I want to point out this cool site, which is called treelines.com. Treelines calls itself a collaborative, story-centric family tree website. It allows you to post for free a family story with photos. You enter some basic family data into a tree and then begin typing a specific story. The story here is called My Dad in 5 Questions, and it's one of the editor's choice on that website. I just particularly love this one. It was put together by a woman who was inspired by her son's first grade project. She gives the question from the assignment, her son's answer, and then her own, and she tells the whole story in only 6 different pages. Then down at the bottom you see the timeline that's created, and Treelines automatically does that as you add information about specific family members. You can share stories on any number of social media sites or genealogy-based platforms. On Facebook, for example, you can set up a page focused just on your family and then invite others to join. On WikiTree and other free sites, you can post information about your family that others can search for and comment on. One of my distant cousins set up this WikiTree from my maternal grandparents' families, and it's proved to be a great way for the 2 of us to share photos and information. As much fun as it is to set up and view these online vehicles for sharing family history, and as helpful as they can be for soliciting more information, they're not in print. So if I can say it one more time, I urge you, even if you create an online family history project of some kind, also to consider a print project. Online projects only stay there as long as you or someone else maintains the site or the blog or the page. So let's look at some various print possibilities, all different ways to display and share your family history. This little family history booklet crossed my desk earlier this year, and it's become one of my absolute favorite examples of an easy, bite-sized family history that you can produce at home. It's only 70 pages long, and it covers just a limited number of generations, so there's no extensive presentation of genealogy. Everything is narrative text. The author interviewed family members and incorporated their stories, and she even put in some favorite recipe. It's full of photos, and it also includes ancestral charts, which she exported from Family Tree Maker. She used Microsoft Publisher for writing and page layout, and she printed it at home on good quality paper, 3-hole punched it, and tied it with a ribbon. It's brief, it's written in a conversational tone that all ages can understand, and in fact that was one of her goals, to make it easily readable by the children in the family. And it's really attractive. And there's a companion version focused on her other grandparents with a red ribbon. So if we take a peek inside, we can see how the author incorporated photos and boxed inserts. She dressed up the pages a bit with fancy typography, but really the pages are fairly simple in appearance. Here's another example of a home-done project. The author found his father's 5-year diary, transcribed it, and added photos, annotations, and a genealogy, and thus turned it into a mid-20th century family history. Now, I don't know what word processing program the author used, but there's nothing fancy looking here, so I'm guessing it was Microsoft Word or WordPerfect, or something else pretty straightforward. The booklet was spiral or comb bound, so the author likely took it to a local copy shop for reproduction. A great way to approach handling diaries and letters. Now here's another little book that recently arrived in my office. It has an intriguing title about a bigamist in the bunch. It's only 30 pages long, this little book, and it presents just one anecdote from the family's history. It has some but not many illustrations, and certainly the author could have chosen to present much more of her ancestry, but by limiting her project to this story and the surrounding genealogy, she's bitten off a nice piece that she could quickly turn into a publication. It's 6 by 9 in format and bound as a paperback, and I have to say I was surprised to see how short it was, because until I saw it I didn't know that you could put a paperback binding on so few pages, but turns out you can. And since then I've met with a printer who said you can do even fewer, so there you go. The author worked with a publishing service to create the book, but she could have just as easily created it using Microsoft Word or another word processing program, created a PDF, and then printed it at a local commercial printer or used an online service such as iUniverse, Lulu, CreateSpace, or others. And a peek inside this book shows us a page of narrative on the left and a page of genealogy on the right. Now, if you've taken an ancestral journey, that's something you can write up in article, booklet, or book form. One of our members created this short book to showcase an ancestral journey she took with other family members to Texas. Like the previous examples, it covers a limited number of generations. It has historical photos and photos from the trip, as well as family charts. Family members worked together to assemble the book, and they had it printed in hardcover by SmugMug, which is one of the many online photo sharing and printing services that have popped up in recent years. And speaking of that kind of printing, another option is a photo-based family history. And if you have many family photos, this is a great way to organize them into a story and have a gift to give family members. This one, for instance, on top, shows family weddings over a 50-year period. Online vendors like SmugMug and Shutterfly, which is what the author of this book used, make the creation of a book just about as easy as it could be. It's almost easier than placing a photo in a traditional album. Now, because these books are photo-based, there's limited space for text. You can order a single copy, receive it in a week or 10 days, and then decide whether to make any changes before you order any more. One of my colleagues has done a series of photo books over the past few years, organizing a lot of his family photos thematically, and these show interior pages from a couple of them. So you can see there are different backgrounds available and different templates. Again, making one or more books like this is a great way to share photos with family, and they make great gifts. Now, a variation on the photo book is even shorter, a calendar with family photos and annotations of ancestral birth and wedding dates. The person who created this calendar does one every year. It's a great way to collect basic information and make it available to your family. Looking inside that calendar, we can see that there's a photo at the top of the page, the top as it hangs on the wall, and then the bottom in the actual calendar squares, you see data about ancestors as well as current family members. And I've done a little detail there to show you what that looks like close up. Very cool way to disseminate information about your family. It's also pretty easy to create a chart from your family information, maybe an All My Ancestors fan chart, such as the one shown to the left here, or a more focused chart showing only some generations of the family. The one in the background here looks really fancy, but it was actually done at home by someone using Microsoft Publisher. You can export a chart from Family Tree Maker or other genealogical software that you might use. You can purchase blank charts online, including from our store at AmericanAncestors.org, and then you can complete them by hand, or you can buy a blank chart, scan it, open it on your computer, and add the names in Microsoft Word, Publisher, or a layout program such as Adobe InDesign. Then I also want to mention that NEHGS's Research Services Department will create charts for you for a fee. And there are other paid services you can use as well, such as one called Family Chart Masters. Now, a magazine or journal article isn't exactly a holiday gift, but I want to mention this format is a type of short family history. Our magazine, American Ancestors, and other genealogical magazines publish brief family histories, as well as stories of journeys and artifacts and other angles on genealogy. The Register and other journals publish articles about single-family lines, focusing on problems solved, new discoveries, and so on. Now, a number of our periodical authors write these articles as they're working on longer works, and that might be the case for you also. Some don't. Sometimes this is all they do. So, just like you would look at published books for inspiration, look at different periodicals and see what kinds of articles they publish. Look for some inspiration there. You can find information about submission at the relevant website and sometimes within the periodical itself. Now, of course, some of you are considering even longer projects than the ones I've mentioned so far. In this presentation, I'm not going to go into great detail about lengthier books, as our focus here today is on sharing, but you can extrapolate, and sharing specifically with the holidays, but I hope you can extrapolate from what we're discussing here today and also look at the many, many other materials that are available at AmericanAncestors.org and elsewhere. You've shifted mental gears and you've thought about your goals, your audience, and your time frame and assembled your materials. You know what you've got to work with. You've seen lots of examples, both online and in print. Now it's time to think about the scope of your project. Bear in mind that your project may become unwieldy if you try to take on too much, so you need to decide what kind of publication you want to create. Do you want to write about one particular ancestor or one line for a few generations? Do you want to list your direct line ancestors for a certain number of generations? If you want to do a photo book, what will the topic be? If a chart, what type and how many generations? It's time to make an outline and come up with a title. Now, your outline might be as simple as this one. This is one I used for a little booklet I created for my stepmother several years ago. It was just a bare bones list of her ancestors going back 10 generations. I typed it up in Microsoft Word and added maps at the back, which I downloaded from the internet. This outline told me exactly what I was going to cover and helped me keep on track. The title says very specifically what the focus of this little booklet was. Now here's the outline of that informal history with the green ribbon. It shows that it's based on two people, Christine and Alan, who are the author's maternal grandparents. And you can see here that she's limited herself to discussion of Christine and Alan, their parents, and then general discussion of their ancestry, but very specific families, not all their ancestors. She names the specific families she'll cover. Again, she was keeping herself on track. Now here's the beginnings of an outline for a family calendar, plotting out what photos to be used for each month. The important point is that your outline is a benchmark to return to as you write and/or create your project. In the face of lots of data, photos, and other potential material to work with, it will keep you focused and on track. And at the same time you create an outline, if you're going to use a lot of images, consider creating an art log to help you organize which photos you'll use. Think of it as the counterpart of your outline. Your log doesn't have to be as detailed as this one, of course, but at a minimum you should probably list a file name and a potential caption. And while we're talking about gathering your materials and creating an outline, it's a good time to mention some basics of photo scanning. Ultimately, you'll need to get your photos into electronic format. One very important thing to remember when you're scanning is that they need to be at a proper resolution for print, and that's a minimum setting of 300 dpi, that is dots per inch. Sometimes that's called pixels per inch, ppi. Also, for best reproduction, save your images in either JPEG or TIFF format. If you don't have a scanner at home, you can take your photos to a local copy shop or to a Staples or other office store and have it done there or do it yourself there. Scanners are also fairly affordable, so you might consider purchasing one for this use if you don't have one already. So you've got your ideas, you've got an outline. Now you just need to put your fingers on the keys and get going. You can use Microsoft Word or some other word processing program. If you're creating something with Shutterfly, SmugMug, or another online vendor, you can type directly into that site on the internet or create your material separately and then paste it in there. Now, you might not be including genealogical information in any formalized way in your family history, but if you are, you should become familiar with the two basic genealogical formats. The first one is called register style or descendancy format. It's called register style because it was developed by NEHGS in 1870 for the register. It has proved to be a useful and highly efficient way to organize and present genealogical information in writing. Even after more than 100 years, it still works great. In register format, you begin in the past, often but not always with the immigrant to America, and move forward or to the present, tracing some or all of the descendants of one ancestor. Each main person has an identification number, and you give the full name and as much vital data as possible about that person and his or her spouse and children. The second basic genealogical format is the Ahnentafel, which is German for ancestor table. Unlike register style, the Ahnentafel goes backward in time, going from present to past. Usually it includes every known ancestor, not just a single line. The Ahnentafel has a very precise numbering system. It's beyond the scope of this webinar to go into any more depth with these two formats, but for more information, visit our online learning center. And there, on a page dedicated to writing and publishing your family history, you can see a previously recorded webinar on that topic and also obtain additional information. You can also consult any number of publications on the topic, including our own new Guide to Genealogical Writing, which I co-authored with Henry Hoff, editor of the Register. It's available at americanancestors.org/store. Now, some of you might have your information in a genealogical software program such as Family Tree Maker or Roots Magic or Reunion or some other program. And if you were here for an in-person seminar, I'd be asking you to raise your hands about that. So I wish I could see you all. If you do, it's a fairly easy matter to export what you have in a format that you can open in Word or another word processing program for editing and further formatting. So, for example, let's look at how to do that in Family Tree Maker. To export, you go to Publish in the top menu, and then you select Genealogy Reports, and then pick either Ahnentafel or Descendant Report, the two formats I just mentioned. Now, with most genealogy software programs, you can do this, selecting which of the two formats you want. And a side note, this can be a great way to determine just how much material you have to work with. If you find that the exported report has 1,000 pages, well, that really tells you something. That's not what you'll be sharing for the holidays, at least not in 2014. Now, here's what that exported Ahnentafel report looks like from Family Tree Maker. I saved it in rich text format and opened it in Word. At NEHGS, we're not big fans of simply exporting and printing, and this example shows you why. The program spits out what you've entered, and if you've been inconsistent entering your data over a period of years, you're going to get inconsistency right back at you. Here too you can see there's lots of extraneous information that I'm going to want to eliminate. And so I decided I was going to open this in Word, reformat it, and edit it. And that's what I've done here. I changed the font, I edited the text to make it read like I wanted to, and I added a photo. And it's kind of looking pretty nice. I also tried bringing it into Microsoft Publisher. I've made the fonts a bit fancier, put in a swirly dingbat, and added a different photo. I could just as easily make the same formatting changes within Microsoft Word. Now, one thing I just want to stick in here is a comment that Publisher doesn't support footnotes. I love it for page layout. It's a great program to have at home. But there's no function that allows you to insert a footnote and have it appear automatically at the bottom of the page like Word does and other word processing programs do. So if you use it for a family history in which you have reference notes, you're going to have to do something different as a workaround or use a different program. So let's look back again at Family Tree Maker and look again at that Publish menu, because I want to show you this is where you can pick a chart to export. So I've chosen something called Family Tree Chart, and when I click that, here's what I get. Again, I'm showing you a lot of Family Tree Maker, which happens to be where I have some of my genealogical data, but other genealogical programs work similarly. Now, here's an interesting plugin that you can purchase for Family Tree Maker called Family Book Creator. If you purchase and download this piece of software, you can then export all or some of your Family Tree Maker file into rich text format. And here you can see the path for doing so. You go to Tools and then Export. And then when I do that, I almost instantly get a report that looks like this, which is certainly more fancy than the standard export from Family Tree Maker. The charts are automatically created and inserted. The wording comes out a little bit more smoothly. This I've exported in register style format, not in Onentafel format, which is why this looks a little different from what I showed you earlier. Family Book Creator documentation suggests that you not make any changes to the file in Word, but instead go back and make all the changes in Family Tree Maker. Still, I'd be likely to open the RTF file in Word and adjust fonts, edit text, and make other adjustments before creating a PDF and deciding how to print my project. Now, of course, you can also write from scratch, just sitting down and hammering out your text in your favorite word processing program. This is actually what I prefer to do, and it's what my genealogist colleagues at NEHGS prefer to do also. Here's an example. Now, that transcribed diary I showed you earlier, that really inspired me. My husband happens to have inherited some Civil War and post-Civil War letters from his great-grandmother. I transcribed those letters several years ago, each as a separate document, and now I'm pulling them together into a single Microsoft Word document, adding images and adding annotations. Now, this won't be ready for Christmas this year, although if I really focused on it, it really could be. Maybe I'll have it ready for my husband's birthday in the spring, so that's my new goal. And if you're making a photo book or calendar, it's fairly easy to use Shutterfly, SmugMug, or another online service. You can write your copy directly online in text boxes that those services make available. I happen to make a small calendar of family photos each year for my sister, and here you can see a work in process where I'm choosing the font and color for the caption for the photos on this page. I can type my text directly into this box right here. I chose a template for 3 photos, allowing me to pick the best shapes for the photos that I've chosen for this particular month. And you see them in what they're almost live on the page. And then you can determine if you want to change to a different template. And then over here you can see there are all these different backgrounds you can choose from. Now that earlier camera I showed you also inspired me, and you can see why I'm not going to finish that book for my husband for Christmas, because I'm going off in this direction too. So I decided to try making something like that other calendar. And here's my first attempt at that. So I've added here the birth data for my great-grandfather, along with his photo on his birth date in the calendar. It's pretty easy to do. And you can see down here all the other photos that I've uploaded. This is at Shutterfly, all that I've uploaded, and I can just click them, drag them right in. And what if you do want to make a photo book? It works much the same way, allowing you to select templates, drag and drop photos, and enter text. Now here I decided to try starting a photo book, pasting in some of those 1870s letters I have from my husband's family. So to fit all this text, turned out I had to go to customize page because the standard templates wouldn't allow it, and I'm getting an exclamation point because of all the potential misspellings in the letters. Now if you have a photo that's too low a resolution for print, you'll also get an exclamation point at Shutterfly. So I also want to mention I did all the writing in Microsoft Word and then cut and pasted it from there into this program. Now, what if you've got a brick wall or some missing information? Please don't let it stop you from creating your family history. If you're undertaking a long-term project, flag that missing information for further attention, but do keep going with everything else. If you want to do something now, go ahead, and if appropriate, just mention that there's information that hasn't yet been determined. There's so much more that you do have on hand that your family will be interested in knowing about. So you've put everything together, and if you're going to print, you need to decide how. Certainly you can print something informally at home, maybe purchasing some nice high-quality paper like we saw in a few examples earlier. You can take your materials to a local copy shop or upload them. You can go to a commercial printer, maybe one that's local or maybe one that's more distant, and upload your files there. You can use an online service such as Lulu.com, CreateSpace, iUniverse, or others, which will print for you, and they'll also offer you additional services, cover design services, editorial services, and so on. If you're doing a photo book, there's Shutterfly, SmugMug, Snapfish, Blurb, My Publisher, any number of them. If you're not comfortable finalizing your project yourself, you can work with a publishing service, and there are more than several that specialize in family histories, genealogies, and memoirs. Finally, publish your project, whether informally by creating something online, printing at home or at a copy shop, or by actually working with a publisher or publisher service. Then you can share with your family and celebrate being an author. Again, I want to mention our Writing and Publishing Subject Guide found at our Online Learning Center. And please use this Online Learning Center for other topics we have there. It's a great, great resource here at AmericanAncestors.org. We update the Writing and Publishing page as we become aware of additional information and services that can be helpful to family historians like you. And here I want to mention again our new book, Guide to Genealogical Writing. It covers some of the topics I've discussed today and many more. And for those of you who are doing longer-term studies, longer genealogies in book form, this is where you'll find really in-depth information about building genealogical sketches and all the steps you need to go through for writing and publishing your family history. In addition, we publish 3 portable genealogists, which are short 4-page laminated publications, 3 hole punch to go in a binder. And those focus on different aspects of genealogical writing. One is on building a sketch, one is on numbering and explains the numbering of both register style and Onentafels, and one is an editorial style sheet geared toward the kinds of things you come up with in genealogies. All these publications and more are available at our online store at AmericanAncestors.org. Okay, just a quick review before we open it up to questions. The first step toward writing your family history is to make that shift of mental gears necessary to thinking about your project as a publication, not as just open-ended research. What are your goals? Who are you planning to share it with? When do you want to have it done? What materials do you have? Look at other publications as models. What inspires you? With all that in mind, determine your format. An informal brief family history, a long genealogical study, a photo book, a calendar, a chart, a series of blog entries. Then define your scope. Make an outline and, if appropriate, an art log. Then write. Sounds easy, I know, but you do need to take that step. You might want to export from genealogical software, or, like me, you want to write from scratch. Finally, decide how you'll print and then publish and share. Sharing your family history, especially in writing, is one of the most important legacies you can leave. The combination of easily usable software and affordable printing makes it so much easier than it was even 25 years ago. No matter what piece you decide to do of your family history or what format you choose, it is a valid study and important for posterity. So whether you're new to family history or have been researching it for many years, it's highly likely that no one else knows your family history as well as you do. I'm so happy you've attended this webinar today because it means you're going to record it by writing it down. I wish you the best as you undertake your specific project, and I look forward to hearing about what you've done, and I hope I see it and hold it in my hands sometime in the future.
Thank you, Penny, for your wonderful presentation. So now let's tackle your questions. If you have anything you'd like to ask Penny, please go ahead and type it in the questions panel, and she'll answer as many as she can in the time provided. So Penny, here's a question from Alan, who asks, should these short books have citations?
Well, that's a very good question, and I was actually thinking about that this morning on my way into the office. We talk a lot in our writing and publishing seminars about the importance of citations and the importance of doing the citations as you write. But I think if you're thinking about putting together something informal as a gift for your family, you really need to bear in mind who your audience is. So if you're doing something informal that you're going to print out at home and hand over, you might want to list your sources, but in an informal way. For instance, that green ribboned book I showed you had just a list of sources at the end, and it just said something like, I consulted censuses from 1850 through 1920 and other documents at Ancestry.com. If you're doing something that will ultimately make its way to any kind of genealogical repository, then you definitely need to have some kind of citations. So I hope that answers your question. Feel free to email me at publications@nehgs.org if you want further advice on that point.
All right, and Elizabeth asks, should books have a copyright?
Elizabeth, it would be interesting to know exactly what kind of book you're talking about. If you're going to print it and distribute it and put it in a library, at least put a copyright notice on it. And even if you don't officially register it with the U.S. Copyright Office, that just by putting that notice on it, you're indicating that this is yours. So you can just put copyright, C in a circle, Elizabeth blank, whatever your name is, and the date. So again, it depends on who your audience is. If you're handing it out to family members, you should be fine without it, but if it's going to make its way beyond your immediate family, protect yourself in that way. And if you want to register it with the Copyright Office, know that go to the U.S. Copyright Office website and read up on that. You would probably need to send them a form, send them some money, and send them a copy of the work. If you're working with the publisher will handle that for you.
Okay, and Renee asks, in regards to blog sites, is it easy to kind of copy and paste something that you've created in another program? Is it easy to just kind of copy something that you've written in Word or a Mac word processing program and just bring it into your blog?
Yes. Any blog post I've written for our Vita Brevis blog, I've written up in Word, largely because we have that 400-word limit, and Word gives me a nice little clue at the bottom of the page and tells me how many words I'm at. So when I get to 600, I know I have to cut. The thing of it is, if you're copying and pasting something that's formatted in genealogical format, so that particularly if it's in register style with all the various indents, those indents aren't necessarily going to hold. And I have to tell you, I don't have experience yet with copying and pasting that kind of information into WordPress or any of those interfaces. So I'll have to check on that with some people I know who do that kind of blogging and see how they get around that. But generally, anything you type up in Word or another program, you can copy and paste. Sometimes you lose the paragraph returns in between, and you have to add those in. So just keep an eye on things when you do your pasting.
Okay, and Judy asks, so when you have an ancestor who is probable but not necessarily proven, how would you portray that in a chart or within your writing?
So you think this is your ancestor. Well, in writing, if you're writing a regular work, a short family history or something published in a book, you could approach that one of two ways. You could list the person as an ancestor and then have a footnote in which you strongly indicate that this is a supposition or a theory, but not proven. In a chart, I guess you could do the same thing. I probably would not put a question mark in a chart, because typically a question mark just refers to not being certain of the name or the spelling of the name. So I guess even with a chart, I'd want to have some kind of note. If you're creating the chart yourself, you could have some kind of device for that, maybe by having putting it in a slightly different color to indicate that there's some question there, or putting a dashed line around the name or something like that, and then have a key that indicates this is supposition. But you definitely need to say that. If you're writing, you could also choose not to mention that ancestor at all in the main part of your text, but wherever relevant in a note, indicate that there's a supposition about that. In some, I'm trying to think, like if you can trace yourself to a certain person but you're not sure where it goes beyond that, when at the place where you're certain, indicate we don't know who this person, say father, was. We think it was this person. So cover it in that person's area and don't write a specific part about the person you're not sure about. So it sort of depends on your level of comfort with the supposition.
All right, and Kathleen asks, have you ever used map-based platforms such as Google Earth to present family history data, and what are your thoughts on these?
You know what? I haven't used Google Earth for that. Someone recently mentioned it to me, and I would love to know more about how to do that. I know that more and more capabilities are becoming possible, and gee, if anybody finds out about it, please let me know what you discover. It's something that we'll have to investigate here. Typically, what we've ended up doing is for some of our publications is downloading historic maps from the right era and then bringing them into Photoshop or another program and adding a circle to point to where the place is. But I think there are probably some very interesting things you can do now that we just haven't tried yet. So thanks for asking the question, and let me know what you find out, and if anybody else knows, let me know.
Okay, and Elaine asks, can you offer tips for getting other people to respond to what you write?
Oh, are you talking about family members and getting them to be engaged in your work? Because one thing we hear from a lot of people is, I give my family all this stuff and they don't seem interested. So I'm not sure how to help with that. But if you're talking about using online platforms and getting people to respond, I'm going to go with that because I'm guessing that's what you mean. I think you can try a couple different things. One is to make your blog or your website as public as possible. The other thing is to email everybody you know to let them know that it's there. Any family members, encourage them to email other people. You can put information about them at various genealogical websites. You can go to things like Gen Forum and so on, and post comments there to indicate to people that these materials are available and you're looking for input and feedback. Certainly create a Facebook page. That's something we've done for some of our Newbury Street Press genealogies. We have a Facebook page called Descendants of Judge John Lowell that we set up to encourage people on Facebook to come in and give us their family information. So I'm not quite sure if that's what you were going for with your question, so let me know at publications@nehgs.org if there's another angle that I'm not quite getting to there.
All right, and how about just one last question before we wrap up for today? Alan asks, does NEHGS have editor services as we do with research?
You know, we don't. We do not offer publishing services for hire. We get a lot of requests to do so, and we wish we could handle all those requests, but we don't have the staff for it. But I can make a couple recommendations for you. There are a couple organizations that you can contact. One is called the Editorial Freelancers Association, and I think you're going to find that in the subject guide at the Online Learning Center. That's an organization of freelance editors, indexers, and others, and you can search for particular specialty and then find out who can do that. Another thing is the Association of Professional Genealogists, which is apgen.org, and some of those people offer writing, editing, and publications help. And then in addition, although we don't do the editorial services for hire ourselves, one important thing I can tell you is we do offer consultations. So you can sign up through AmericanAncestors.org for a paid consultation with one of the members of our publications team, I or someone else on our staff, for a half hour or an hour or more, and we can try to talk to you about some of the issues that you might have. That's not enough time for us to look at your material and actually go through and edit your manuscript ourselves, but we can certainly give you overall general editorial advice. So I hope that helps answer your question.
All right, well, thank you everyone for your questions. If you'd like hands-on help with your project or have more detailed questions about the specifics of your research, you may want to consider consulting Penny or someone from our publications team, as she just mentioned, or hiring our research services team. If you're interested in learning more about those services, you can write to the email addresses on the current slide. I'll also include this information in my follow-up email to you tomorrow. So thank you again for joining us today. As you leave the event, you'll have the opportunity to fill out a survey and give us your feedback. As we continue to expand our webinars and online offerings, any and all feedback is extremely helpful and appreciated. Be sure to explore our website, AmericanAncestors.org, which offers access to millions of records covering New England, New York, and beyond. And if you're ever in the Boston area, feel free to stop by our research library and archives. We're open to the public and hold a vast collection of published genealogies, biographies, local histories, microfilms, manuscripts, and more. If you'd like to access more how-to resources or learn about upcoming online educational programs, please visit our online learning center, americanancestors.org/learning-center. I hope to see you at our online programs in the future. Goodbye for now.